our team is here. You all are ready to begin. And so as Scott and we agreed last time, Vicki Morrison is taking notes. And so we talked about having the board in place so we can kind of go. Vicki was able to get the notes out for our per the agreement at the table to make sure you all were noticed in enough times about the discussions that we had. After which, thank you. After which, we met and we talked. What I did was I met with a couple of teachers here, and then included, Charlie.
We got 2 absences right now.
Okay. Okay, I just knew there was a couple people, but I remember she was asking the questions. We talked about comp time a little bit here, but the small group talked about several issues. The several issues for the good of the order that we discussed in that small group, which included all the principals, the HR director, and Attorney Leonard Dixon, were as follows. Teacher transfer day, teacher intent forms, and there was one other item that I'll hold off on talking about now. I worked with the small group and answered a couple of questions about the comp time information. And what we said was we wanted to come back today in an open forum at the table to look at how we can successfully implement those 2 concepts, meeting contract language, but also making and supporting teachers. So Mr. Mazer, Scott and I talked, and what we talked about was presenting those items to you all or with you all today to talk about and kind of work through. Okay, so we're gonna do that. Here are the minutes with you all's revisions. Did you want to talk about that, Scott?
Find out that they're acceptable and then we can enter them in as the final.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
So they're agreed upon with the changes.
Yeah, we'll make the note. So what you're looking for is just the exact wording, phrasing from people, not adjectives or they kind of describe it, but just the actual listing of the facts. Okay. Which is most appropriate. Okay. We accept those. So you want to start with teacher? Yeah. Okay. So I have them here. We didn't introduce my friend. She wasn't here last time. Look how she cut the look. So can you introduce yourself to the group because you are not here? I'm serious.
Yeah. I'm Kim Banks. I'm the Chief Financial Officer.
So she's with us tonight. There's a couple of things in here. The first one we just want to look at is the first item that's out of here. Okay. How are you doing? Were you here last time? Okay, so you can introduce yourself too.
Oh yeah, it's not just me.
Not just me. I'm Martina Taylor. I'm in. You teach math? Yes. Yes. You're welcome. And I think our side already has it. So if I could have, Russ is here, okay. Russ, I got it for you. If you all would allow Mr. Shiner to go ahead and present the concept. He's newer to Leon County, and I would like to start off the record showing that in the contract language, it talks about teacher transfer day. More specifically, I can tell you where it is in the contract book. And it's on page 33 of the purple book for those of you. It's item 14.02. When I joined Leon County Schools, we had teacher transfer day. The concept was if you had certain criteria designated and agreed upon, you would qualify potentially to participate in teacher transfer day. You had to be in the district for 3 consecutive years, have so many evaluations at a certain rating, et cetera. But we know with COVID, this has presented a challenge for us the past last year and even this year. And we want to be respectful of the fact that there are people who, for whatever reason, would like to change schools, have different opportunities and different exposures to learning environments. And so with that being said, and in honoring the COVID-19 pandemic restrictions and affording everybody the same opportunity, Mr. Shively came up with a really neat idea that he'd like to present to you all this evening.
Sure, thank you. Another one of the aspects of this process is will sort of bring us into the 21st century, if you will, as it relates to the way that we're conducting these interviews. Instead of just having one session at one school that is confined to one time period, we want to open it up to a period of time in which teachers will essentially get preference during the application process. Current teachers will get preference in the application process for transfer over, right? So we've outlined on this proposal sort of the overview of how we see it working. So essentially, sites would complete the reappointment process and notify teachers that will not be reappointed for the 21-22 school year by May 14th. Basically, we let anyone know that they're being affected by non-reappointment in advance of this process starting. Sites would then, beginning on the 14th, sites would post all projected vacancies using the LCS PATS applicant system for at least 5 business days during the teacher transfer period, which shall run between May 14th and June 21st, 2021. Okay. Anytime during that time period, school can post the job. They only post it for a week, or 2 weeks if they want, but they don't have to post it the entire time. They post it during the period. And during when anyone that applies as a teacher that meets the criteria will receive preference in the process. All right. So site administrators must grant an offer of an interview at a time and place of the administrator's determination to current LCS teachers meet the following criteria. Teachers must have applied for the specific vacancy during the LCS PATS, or using the LCS PATS applicant system. Teacher must meet the minimum requirements for the position as posted in the advertisement. Teacher must have been continuously employed with the district for 3 consecutive years. And that's defined by that 742.5 hours in the school year to qualify. And then the teacher must have been rated effective or highly effective for the 2018-19 school year. Essentially what we did for these criteria is took what's already in the contract and applied it for the criteria. But as we talk, the preference in this process is that any teachers meeting the criteria will be granted an interview. That would essentially outline the process. After the 21st, we would revert back to normal hiring procedures.
If our main thing is to kind of go through this, do you mind if we talk this real quick after the discussion?
Sure.
Are all on the same page?
Because our goal was to look at it and make recommendations, but to go ahead and get this because we want to make sure that we can.
I understand.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
no, the intent is to
Get it done.
get it done, but figure out exactly what
Yeah.
we did. We'll go that way. I just wanted to.
The one thing I think, wait a minute, before you all leave out, I think the one thing that, who made the comment? Ms. Clemens, can you share with them the concept that if there's one school that has, and I think you and Mr. Burgess identified, there may be a school that has, that everybody wants to go to, or you think right? So there's certain schools that may have one opening with 15 people applying for the opening, and like who would get to be in that type of thing. So Mr. Burgess and Ms. Clemens essentially said the number of people that when you bring teams to teacher transfer day, how many of you all have been to teacher transfer day? So they set up tables. In certain schools, if you had a lot of interviews, you have 3 or 4 tables because they had so many interviews. That concept would just be at the school. So you would make sure you have teams of people to make sure you're meeting the need. Just so you all would know that. So there wouldn't be people waiting days for an interview.
Essentially, we're saying if they apply,
If they
we'll
apply.
interview.
Yeah.
And the way that we may accomplish that is that we may use teams, right? But
Yeah.
ultimately, in the language here, we're just saying if they apply, we're going to interview.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So, appreciate the opportunity to take a look at this. I know that you've got a couple of questions with logistics.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, number one, for continuity purposes, we would like a set date, not by May 14th, because then that means some people are being non-reappointed, maybe April 30th, some around May 10th, some around May 4th. It's going to be all over the place in terms of when people are notified. And if we think about what's going on in the district about that time, it could create some disruption. So for continuity purposes, we would like.
So you're saying, so you want us to tell principals that everybody has to be notified on the same day? I don't know if that's doable, because I think some principals have already told people. But keep going, let's talk about it. I think some principals have maybe having discussions or
Well,
had.
no, it's actually the size of the building. Because you have to talk to all your entities. So as you're having conversations, that kind of.
Well, I think it goes back down to the
Traditionally, we've had
process.
a week. We've had a week to talk to everybody, just because you have to be able to break those up. And being fair, you do sometimes have to elaborate the conversation.
Okay. So
So
when it comes to process, we've also had the issue of where people just walk to their box, the principal's website, and they get a little notice in their box. And then there's no one to talk to.
Right.
We haven't had a discussion.
Right.
So I guess the question then is the process that's being implemented for continuity.
Well, I think
Are principals expected to have conversations with non-reappointments?
that's administrative, that's not bargaining. What I want to make sure we're talking about teacher transfer day. I totally get what you're
It's a
saying.
working condition, so.
I know, but still, that's not what we're talking about in terms of teacher. What you want us to do is we want us to be considerate, deliberate, intentional with teachers to talk about whether they're going to be reappointed or non-reappointed for the upcoming school year. When they're notified, how they're notified, what it looks like. I understand that portion of it, but I don't think that impacts teacher transfer process.
Well, it does, because this is gonna have an impact on the people that are gonna be participating in the teacher transfer. So, I mean, when we're talking about the non-reappointment process, it is a part of the process. And so when we used all those words that were.
Okay, so then maybe we need to adjust that.
It was not consistency of what we're expecting.
No problem. So we can take that bullet off. Sites will complete the reappointment process and notify just so because we know as those of you in schools, you can't do it all in one day. You just cannot notify and have those conversations.
If I could, it's not currently outlined in the contract language.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a step far beyond, what's currently in the contract. And I think that what we're trying to do is ensure that in an efficient manner, they're doing it within a narrow time frame, they're due the 7th, the 14th. Some of them are doing it now, but generally speaking, you're gonna have them all taking place between that
The 7th to the
week of the
14th.
7th.
Yeah.
Right, that time frame.
So I do understand it's not a contract, but it has been brought to the school board on a number of occasions because of the way that it's done, and people are left with just a slip and then have to go ahead and deal with that. So when we, as a district, I have heard many times from the school board superintendent how much they value their staff. And in terms of valuing staff, we would think that they would have a conversation to explain the situation, and that it wouldn't be much to ask for it to be a part of the process.
But I don't think that's a part of the teacher transfer day process. I get what you're saying all day long. It's the conscientious conversation to say, this is what I think we're gonna do for next year. This is how I think you can improve, or this is where I think, or whatever it is. I just don't necessarily think that is a part of the process of saying participating in teacher transfer day process.
It's bullet one. So,
Well, that's what I'm saying, we can remove it. That's not a part of the process.
but bullet one is also a part of the process because the date of 30 days prior to the end of the school year of notification of non-reappointments is a part of that stuff.
So we can say by,
That goes back to what we have.
they're covered up. He's talking about House Bill 76-9. Yeah. Okay, is there anything else that gives you concern in terms of the process?
So what I hear is a week is what it would take to have those conversations.
No, sometimes it takes more. I mean, because other things are happening. I mean, I give you an example, like I had a couple deaths of kids in my building. I mean, things come up
Yeah.
that will alter your time. I mean, and you also owe it to the other people. I don't want to rush someone out, you know, because then that becomes dismissive to the employee if I actually rush them out from my office.
So I guess then the question comes to, we're also talking about things come up in time. I'm gonna skip down to something else that's gonna take some time. That is travel for individuals that are doing all these interviews that are non-reappointed if they're allowed to be interviewed at all these different school sites. So if positions open up at 3 different school sites and we're gonna have teachers, is this intended to take place during the workday, temporary duty? Is this, when does this happen? How does this look?
That's a good question. Okay, anything else? Did you want to answer that? Yeah, go ahead.
The way that I'm envisioning is it would happen just like any other interview process would happen, as scheduled by the principal, whatever that principal has time. So if the principal is able to schedule an interview during the day, then the principal would schedule the interview during the day, and that teacher would request off for the time frame. You know what I mean? And we would say that the principals would work with those. If they wanted to do it after hours, they would work together to come to an agreement time. But I don't think that we would be setting aside, you know, any kind of specific leave or anything like that these individuals would utilize to interview for jobs.
And I think that's the issue of the teacher transfer day, was that there was a set day, and if a teacher had maybe 6 interviews, they could get all 6 of those interviews within that day. So if you have 6 interviews, and some are during the day, and some are after hours, and some are, now that teacher has to travel 6 different places, so it takes more time, and it's a burden on the employee. So
Even the previous process was an after-hours process, so it wasn't had to take place during the day. I mean, you know, I think that what we're saying is that most of these interviews would take place, we're leaving it open, right? But most of these interviews would take place virtually. That's been the preference of principals
For this year.
Last year, right, with COVID, right? So most of them, I would imagine, will take place after the school day, virtually.
And during post-planning, we would encourage, you to, if that's something that you all, and that is something to take into consideration if you're driving here and there. But I wouldn't think that any of these would be in person. We haven't done anything in person this year. We would not require teachers to leave where they are to come to a school site to do that in person. You can make arrangements if selected or hired by the new school site to meet your team potentially, but I think you can do virtual interviews to be fair. So that would cut down this year on that travel time. But if you remember, usually teacher transfer day took place after, was like a day or two after, where's Vicki? After school was out and post-planning, so that's when, to me, yeah, we could strongly encourage those interviews to take place during that time frame, so no one's having to take leave, no one's having to drive all over this, you know, the area.
Okay, so so when it comes to what was shared on bullet number 2 and how the process kind of works, it says here that sites will post all projected vacancies. What is a projected vacancy? Is that based on the staffing plan?
Well, it could be based off the staffing plan. It could be, Dr. Coxey is a great example. There, you know, they've got level people who are at high school. You may have math, calculus, physics, whatever, those hard to hit areas, or those very, and you know now you're gonna need them. So you can post those now. So it doesn't necessarily govern always by, it may be a need that arises, but for the most part, based on what the needs are at the school, the staffing plan, if something presents itself at the last, that was
So one of the other things we're talking about today is the intent form, right? And so what we're talking about is this is a combination of staffing plan, intent forms come together.
yeah,
Principals get a picture of their total staffing need, and then okay, they know that I'm gonna have a science teacher that's gonna be open this fall. So I'm gonna project that vacancy because you know, so-and-so's retiring.
Yeah.
And so they advertise the job. Or I have an actual vacancy and I advertise the job is vacant.
Or like a teacher today quit at one of the schools for just personal reasons, moving out of state. So, I mean, that position will go up there. It's not necessarily, you know, that was not part of the staffing plan because we're still in the year, right? So it just depends on.
So the question is, any projected vacancy? Does the definition projected mean that you have an intended filling for that person, that may be an intern that you need to wait for this window to close before you offer it to the teacher?
Almost definitely. Yeah, we're not offering anything before the teacher
Not a
transfer.
minute. Through this window,
Uh-huh.
current employees, I'm not offering this position because I've already kind of talked to an intern that's been at my building. Now the window opens, now I open that position
Talk
up,
about that too.
not allowing it to be something posted during this window.
Okay, so we talked about that.
I think that what we're saying is that if we have knowledge of a vacancy, we're gonna post it during this window. All right, now, do things happen? Yes, but it's not, you know, like you say, I'm not intentionally going behind doing that. And quite honestly, you know, what we're saying is we're giving people the opportunity to apply and be interviewed, right? All things being equal, we're gonna choose the best person for the job, period. You know, and so if we know we have a vacancy, we're gonna say to the principals, post it during this time. With the understanding that if something comes up afterwards, we can't control that. We'll still post the job like normal, and of course, people will still be able to apply like normal. But they won't. You know, once the time period is ended, the preference for teacher transfer process will end.
So when you post it on 5/14, you're saying that unless the interviews are conducted after school, or you're digitally, there's not gonna be any paid time off, then why are we posting at 5/14 and not getting time off until 6? You're expecting all those interviews to then take place after school,
After school hours.
and that will be explicitly stated, because even if I do a virtual interview,
Okay.
I'm gonna have to get coverage for class, but if that's during the day. But if
Yeah, I don't-
I can't interview a class.
Sure.
Obviously.
No, I get it.
Diversity and knowledge.
So I mean, generally speaking, the principal's gonna work with that person that's looking to be interviewed to find an opening.
Because it could be before school. I mean, some people may want to do, their planning. I'm just saying.
We just can't wait, we can't wait until June 14th to start interviewing. You know what I mean? So we've got to start this process now, and we'll find slots. The principal will find slots.
And we'll make sure that's clear, that's, okay.
So I'm hearing very loud, saying that you're not gonna do the reappointment by a specific date stated, which allows the principals to, at the very end, on 6/14, hand out non-reappointment letters.
We're doing it by the 14th.
Yeah.
Those are the ones who are eligible, can be eligible.
So everything will be notified by the 14th.
Yeah.
We're not limiting that to a specific week of time or time frame.
So everyone will be notified by the 14th?
Right, yes, right. Some before,
From now to the 14th.
right, now to the 14th. Everyone will know by the 14th when this process starts.
And what-
So the teacher transfer window that we've outlined starts the 14th, ends the 21st of June, right? What we're saying is that everyone will, if they're going to be non-reappointed, they'll be notified by the 14th. So they'll know, I need to be looking for a job, right? So at that point, anything that comes up, they can apply to. Now, everybody that's a teacher that meets the criteria will be eligible to apply for these vacancies as well, right? And so, and we'll receive the same level of preference.
But let's also add in, you're saying 14, post it, because you need 5 days to be fair to all the applicants to be able to see the positions and then decide what they want to apply for. So then you're assuming sometime after that,
Right, I mean, so
I just want to make sure,
the 14th is the notified date and the date that we will start the window for preference, right? So at that point, any job that comes up, we're gonna make sure that it's posted for at least 5 days. And so the people that are looking to transfer will be watching the boards, and we'll see if something comes up, they'll apply for it. And then at that point, once they've applied for it, we'll make sure that they get the preference that we're agreeing to.
They go up to 14th, but they'll be posted for 5 days before.
Yeah, there will be 5 business days.
Mhm.
So essentially, every job's gonna be posted for at least a week. Yeah. And, it's important to understand that, there's no obligation, and there never has been any obligation to hire any one person or another. I think their principals are going to give preference to every teacher, give them the opportunity to interview, and that's the preference, right? We're not gonna, go by seniority or anything along those lines. We're gonna give all teachers the opportunity. And then the person that they feel like is the best fit for the job is the person they're going to choose.
But at least everybody has the same opportunity to go
Right.
as many interviews if they want. That's another thing. Before our teacher transfer day, I think Ms. Morrison was limited to 6. So if you wanted to do more, and this would be the year, because virtually, if you're doing your interviews, you have access and opportunity to do more. So that's another.
You can watch it as many as well.
Well, are we keeping one?
mean,
Dina said she's gonna strike it. Are we keeping it?
We can pull it down. I thought he wanted everybody to be notified on the same day. That won't, we cannot do that.
So, but if we could, at the end of school year by May 14, 2021, in a with their side administrator, that there would be a meeting. It would not just be a slip placed in a box,
Oh, okay. So you're saying they'll be notified by the 14th,
but yet.
but in a meeting with their administrator.
See, let me tell you this, all day long, I hear what you're saying. That to me is an issue that deals with empathy and how you engage with your staff. Me putting that here is not, they are not a part of the bargaining unit. This is just a way to notify teachers. So my concern is if we put that on here, principals, we're telling you all how and you all may have it totally different and more creative, and you may do it different. I feel that there should be a notification process. If there is a school or a principal or a school or a teacher that says to me, Ms. McAllister, I got a pink slip in my box. All day long, I can handle that. I can deal with that one individual, but for me to put on here that I'm going to tell principals they have to have a meeting, I don't manage their time.
We tell principals what the process is in progressive discipline. We tell principals what, that you have to have a duty-free lunch. We do have things within the contract that speak to those things. And I hear you say empathy is something that this requires, but if there is a principal that lacks empathy, I think there's a bigger issue here.
But that's not
we
for
can-
borrowing stuff.
But when it comes down to the value and what people have done this year, and we can't even tell them in their eye that, you know what, I'm not gonna be able to have you back next year, I'm just gonna put a pink slip in your box. It's been a very difficult year. We wanna talk about the social emotional stresses on teachers. To get that pink slip about at least having an empathetic conversation with your side administrator. I don't see how this is really asking that much.
Well, it's 2 seconds. We're not bargaining how to non-renew someone. These folks are not renewed, and we're giving them a transfer day. See the difference? How to non-renew is an infant, right? And if the evaluation and stuff went appropriately, it should be a surprise.
So what I can do is, Kim, say what you said a few minutes ago, Kim, or Patty, one of you said something about for number 1, the first bullet, the way you said it. I thought you just said something, Kim, not just now, but a few minutes ago when you said by the 14th.
Yes,
That's how it
it's
So
already.
that's how it's written.
Right. So what we're saying, you said we could just strike it, but are you keeping it because we are saying that we are doing it? And that this goes towards Ms. Clements, Joe, and,
Wesley is right here.
oh,
I moved.
You moved.
He was over there. Yeah, I got.
I'll be over there.
you're saying that by the 14th, all your non-reappointments will be notified. So that on the next Monday, when this teacher transfer goes up and passed, those non-reappointments will be able to go ahead and apply.
At the same time.
This is just a suggestion, that will ratify them, but how about if you guys reappoint by 14, and then the transfer, the notifications are done starting on the 15th, so somebody doesn't see, you know what I mean, like, has a last thing, but it's past, I don't know, whatever, think about it.
You're asking for grace, compassion, and from us all year round. And what she's saying is, you're saying we're asking that you post it on Monday, so that person gets that Friday to grieve the loss of a job.
Or they don't see it
So
on.
basically push the date back,
Yes.
so it's 14th, I think the 14th.
14th.
Yeah, it's
So Monday, the
Yes.
17th, you start the.
Correct.
Yeah, 17th, we start the.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's
We're not
fine.
gonna put it on.
Okay, so Vicky can fix that. Kim, look at that, please, and make sure, and Patty, make sure that that's, how would you say, it's kind of far, how would you say it, Kim?
You just change the date to the 17th.
Okay,
We go from
And
the
just change
17th to the
17th,
21st.
Somebody who hasn't been
Okay.
let go.
On the second bullet.
Correct.
Second bullet is 17th.
okay.
Because it really should have said that.
Oh, I see what you're saying, okay, okay,
They don't find out perhaps with another letter in the mailbox.
okay, okay.
However, it's been told.
Okay, that's good, okay. All right, but what was, okay, so fix the date and say the 17th on the second bullet? Okay,
So then everybody is ready to say, okay, on the 17th, I'm gonna start applying.
okay,
One thing to be clear though, is that not every single job is going to post on the 17th. So basically, the posting period will be between this time, so jobs will post sort of like normal. You know, as that principal is ready to post it, they'll post it during that time frame, and then they'll have that 1 week that they run, right?
What is
So
someone
it's
ready
not
to
convenient
post?
for the principal.
say it again.
What does ready to post mean?
Right.
Like,
Oh, he's saying, what does ready to post mean?
so does this mean that if they're, so here's the thing, so you get a staffing plan, let's say it says 20 people, right? You got 23 people at your site. So you're gonna go ahead and non-reappoint 3?
No, three may be retiring.
Right.
Two may be retiring,
I mean,
one may be
my point
leaving.
is, you're gonna end, some principals will end up below their staffing plan. And
That's,
so when a principal ends up below their staffing plan,
Mhm.
does that trigger the process that the position would post?
right. That would become a projected vacancy at that point. So a lot of people, if they don't have any attrition, like retirements or resignations, they're going to be at negative, which means that they've got to get 0, right? They've got to, if they've got 32 positions, right? And they've got 34 teachers, they've got to non-reappoint 2 teachers to get 0, right? If they've got 5 people that are going to be leaving because of attrition, then essentially your net is, you got three slots that they can then advertise and then post it up. You know what I'm saying?
And don't forget about the transfer.
Right.
Right, and then
Every time that happens,
the openings that are created based on the
Yeah,
trend.
Which is why you have the transfer to come up with it.
Well, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
That was one thing we couldn't do a teacher transfer day. Everybody would go and then teachers would accept jobs, but then the principals left, like, I want to get a connection from these people here. This gives everybody the same field, you know.
It's actually a strength of this process because when that other person falls out here, they can still, the replacement will be filled through the process,
So
whereas before it
I
wouldn't.
see what you're saying.
a position posted on the 17th, runs for 5 days, to the 22nd it closes.
Right.
The 23rd, teachers sit down and interview, and a teacher is hired from another school. the 24th, the teacher, the school of that teacher will have to then post it and say, hey, we're.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matter of fact, we gotta list the name. I mean, we gotta say, who's, we gotta give all that information.
Exactly, you said exactly correct.
And then so the teachers that are currently in-house or have not been reappointed will have until the 21st to fill that slot.
Yes,
22nd, it goes to the general public. What about a teacher in the bullet point 3 here?
Well, you finish with this, I'll clarify with you.
Okay, teacher in bullet point 3 is an annual teacher. This is their first year. They would have been rated effective or highly effective, but was cut due to budget. They have no play in teacher transfer day.
no, based on the contract language, but once the all the positions are posted, so once that window and all
That's
that.
what I want to clarify,
Yeah,
is that everyone can apply for the position. So we're not holding back
right,
during a posting period and only allowing an internal applicant. We're saying, we're
Preference,
posting the job and allowing everyone to apply, right? So teacher 1 who meets the criteria can apply. Teacher 2 who does not meet the criteria can apply. Someone from the public can apply. We're giving preference to the people who are in criteria 1, who meet, we're saying everyone that meets these criteria, we're going to guarantee an interview. It may still be that we hire someone that is example B or example C, but that would only be because they were clearly the best fit.
which is what happens on teacher transfer day. They don't always offer teachers positions on teacher transfer day. Some people don't pick up anyone.
But the same issue of teacher transfer day presents itself. Where, well, I guess it presents itself even at a greater level because teacher transfer day, it's the select group, they're going through it, and there's only I'm gonna go ahead and, lack of better word, coach this teacher from another school, right? And we've had our little agreement in place for about 3 weeks or whatever, which now creates a vacancy. But now included into that process, now we're also saying all you interns, everybody outside the system, everything can now be a part of the process as well at the same exact time. We're gonna go ahead and create a priority of that you get the interview. That doesn't still mean that there is that kind of.
Well, we're offering that specific time. Go ahead.
So yes, what you're saying, I would say what you're saying is right, but we're also allowing for the fact that there will be a continuation. It actually presents more opportunity for transfer because you get when you have the in-person, one shot, right? It's only that one time. You don't get to address any of the subsequent vacancies that are caused by that first move in the transfer process. So one move here is 1-for-1. If you do it in our process, the one move here results in one opening here and maybe 3, 4, 5 down the road that are being filled through that transfer process.
So based off of what you're saying is the people that are annual contract teachers first year, they're still part of that process, but they're not granted the guaranteed interview that would be offered to someone with 3 years.
Yes, correct.
And it's probably, and quite honestly, I'm not a principal, but I would imagine that these principals would say, oh, this is an teacher, they're a teacher in the district. They got non-reappointed, I want to interview. You know what I mean? Even though they're not technically required to be given preference, they're going to get an interview in that kind of a setting, and the best person is going to get chosen for the job, which is ultimately what we want on both sides of it.
Just trying to process it because I think part of what the teacher transfer day represents is that you are a valued employee of the district and you have the opportunity in that special time to go ahead and move from one school to school site. So I'm
Don't forget about the thing that they mentioned in the old process, they only had 6 slots.
of course.
Right.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of them, that was like one of the biggest barriers was that they only could get to 6. And maybe I did want to talk to 12. You know what I'm saying? It's like in this case, you actually get to talk to all 12.
Oh, yeah.
So, and does this also mean that, let's say, for example, that the teacher that is seeking a transfer, are they bound since their contract is up to the other site since they haven't signed a new contract? Because a lot of times a principal won't release a teacher. There have been cases in transfer day where no longer a principal in the district, but would block certain teachers from transferring because they were good teachers in a Title I school. So I imagine that, I'm just trying to understand the situation.
There won't be any blocking. I don't know one principal that remains in our district that would keep a teacher, because teachers transfer for various reasons. It could be health, it could be their family responsibilities have changed, the location of where they live, the opportunity to teach in a different environment. I don't have one principal that would block anyone from transferring. We don't.
Especially during this time.
No, not one. We wouldn't permit that.
Then we wouldn't permit them not to have a face-to-face conversation about the non-deployment. They wouldn't.
I'm just, when you say to me a principal blocking, if a teacher put in for a transfer and applied for a position, and they were selected or offered the position, would you?
Listen, if you can tell you, we just had a secretary leave right now doing.
Oh, don't you talk to us.
I had to deal with it.
Don't put us out there.
I mean, but that's part of what you have to own as an administrator. Like, they get a right to transfer.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, that helps clarify.
It does clarify, so that you
Oh, no,
want to
it's-
sit down.
No.
What?
Okay,
Good.
all good questions.
All right, we're gonna talk real quick, and I think what we can do is we can kind of come up with our final little piece, but I want to make sure that everybody.
All right, chop it up, let's do
We'll do
it.
some TV later.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking. Boys basketball. We're talking about
Okay, you
So
want to,
I guess what I'm just referencing now is this the intent form that?
for each level, yeah, but we wanted to finish teacher transfer day.
Well, I know, but it kind of ties into it, so, because I figured that's what the projected.
Oh, okay.
Projected vacancies, we're trying to understand what projected vacancy is that a projected vacancy example? Is that where, now I know someone's retiring, I know that I have to fill that position. I can
Yeah.
advertise that.
Or through attrition, or like I think Brett gave great examples. It could be someone like for me, I always knew when I was gonna be moving, because my husband's a pastor. So I knew in May, so I told my principal, that's through attrition. I knew I was leaving. I was not being non-reappointed. So potentially my principal could have advertised my position because I notified them. That's a projected based on, but these were just samples from each level.
I mean, honestly, we could say vacancies because we've already notified them of all the non-reappointments. You know, but it just at some point, you know, we're doing our best to try and do a staffing plan that's looking at our entire needs, right? And if a person hasn't retired yet, hasn't resigned yet, but they've indicated they will or that they're going to, then we need to be able to post those jobs. And if they don't ever come to fruition, then we don't end up hiring for them.
So if you want to take out the word projected, you can.
No, it's fine. That was fine.
So what are we changing on here besides the
We
17?
did want it, but
Number
17,
one, second bullet, sites will post all projected vacancies based upon their staffing plan.
We've always used non-binding vacancies, would that make sense?
We've always used that language. And that's in the contract book. So sites will post all non-binding vacancies?
So when you.
That's like a crazy word.
I know,
That's the language that's used, that's why I said it.
Crazy because it's all-
I agree. I mean, it's in there, Kim, if you go to page 33. Look under 14.02. Now it says prior to filling vacant, they use the word vacant in there. But whenever we send it out for for LCS language, cuckoo as it may be, non-binding is what we use when we talk to principals. You don't have to use that, we can say vacancies.
Yes, thank you.
Say what?
You said that you can use vacancies, right?
Yeah, so take out, remove the word projected.
That was all these.
Okay, perfect. We'll remove that. We'll strike it through. Okay.
Oh, there was a point of clarification that we needed as well. This was- So when the 5 days are open, that 5 days, everybody puts their time and their information in. So even when you're non-reappointed, brand new to the district, or somebody who falls within transfer day, it's just that everyone's got that 5 days, and the transfers would be the only ones that would be guaranteed and interview at that time.
Yeah.
Making sure.
Yes.
Right, and it's, okay, cool.
Okay.
Just wanted to clarify.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, no
Because I
problem.
think there was the idea that there would be like a transfer only section, and then it would open up. And that's what we wanted.
No, transfers are only guaranteed if you can.
Right.
Okay,
So like, yeah, if that job posts for 10 or 15 days, the first 5 days is
No.
guaranteed. I'm just, yeah, that's point of
If
clarification.
anyone, so if the job posts during the entire period, at any point in time.
Right.
We're gonna say that we're giving preference to any teacher that applies
Right,
for that job.
Right.
And so that preference that we're giving is the right to an interview. Now, it means that it also, though, just to clarify, we may interview other people as well, but every teacher that applies is gonna have their chance
right.
to get in there for an interview.
right,
They
so,
can be stand correct.
As long as it's posted during that time.
and meets the criteria.
Right, I just want to make sure that,
So, based on the change of that and the fact that from the projected being removed on the second bullet, and I guess, I'm gonna try one more time. Your principles with empathy will speak to people.
I'll give them a Dina look, they're gonna speak. Let's keep.
Okay, so, and if it doesn't happen, then we know for.
Then Mrs.
Yeah, we'll know
McAllister.
who are unempathetic.
We
Ones
wanna
are
make sure-
Leonard.
we wanna make sure they're all showing grace and compassion and flexibility.
Yes, yes, they have that.
We keep our yellow cat.
So with that said, I think that, in principle, we can agree to what we have.
Okay, so I'll make sure, we're keeping bullet 1, however, we're gonna change the date to the 17th in the second bullet,
Yes.
okay? And getting rid of the word projected, okay? All right then, that's up on the screen, if you wanna verify that, someone from LCTA.
Martina or Pam, you guys go up there.
Yeah. Hey, can we print it, Wallace, and sign it?
And I wanna make sure,
You can see it? Okay, thank you.
I wanna make sure that we are keenly aware of the uniqueness of what this year brings in the shortened summer. And that we know that this is where site administrators need to have the flexibility to make sure that they meet the needs of the school so that we're prepared for the next year. And we appreciate the fact that we've been able to at least test it and maybe
Yeah.
look for any changes that may need to take place and add it to the contract.
And I just think it's important to update what we do, right? When we're given an opportunity to improve in our access to everyone, I think this gives greater access
Well, and
for both sides,
the
principals
thing
as
is,
well
we
as.
wanna make sure that it doesn't marginalize our folks that have actually put the time.
Yeah.
And get them as
Better.
far as
Yeah.
veteran teachers looking for that transfer.
All right, so the other concept was the teacher intent forms. What we did was, because we have 3 awesome principals who volunteered to serve on our bargaining team, they were voluntold, no, I'm just kidding. But we asked them to share with us what they used at their site, potentially. And so, you can tell, I think Joe Burgess's, which is back in front. I just want to say for good order, high school is the longest. Elementary is short and sweet. Can you see that? Short and sweet. Fill it in, a little box for you to fill in your stuff. You can always tell. And then middle school is, we're brilliant. Tell me what you want. Yes, no, check the box. Let's go.
That's true.
It is. It is. You can tell it's the middle school. So we'd like for you all to review these and see if this is, you know, like, and what I would do is, the goal of this would be, it would come out of the HR labor department and be sent out to principals, be uniform, so that one school is not saying, mine look like this, I don't feel comfortable filling it out. Scott didn't have to send out a single-space, 3-page, red written Apple email to everyone saying, don't sign. And then you can get this, and I won't get mad. And so then, yeah. So we're ready for,
We can do something right now.
Okay.
So, the one that is from that is our preference.
oh, you want to use this for all levels?
Yeah.
And so, the reason that
Yeah.
here's the thing,
But wait, we're gonna discuss.
and you're gonna
Yeah.
discuss, but the reason, what we're thinking is this could be a fillable form.
Right.
That people just, you know, it's electronic, whatever, you don't have to print anything you don't want to, it depends. But the issue is the back part allows for people to give the information, it doesn't necessarily indicate what the information is.
Like a survey monkey, just send us a survey monkey. Yeah.
Okay, well, you've given your feedback. Can you allow us to caucus for just a few minutes? We have no problem with using the one form. However, we think, from our perspective, that there are a couple of areas that are not appropriate for elementary, which is the most which are the bulk of our schools in the district, okay? So, say for instance, please indicate homeroom grade level choice, that, you know, so there's a couple of things you can do NA, you know, there are ways around that. But the one item that we feel is most important, we'd like to add a drop down to the last bullet, potentially a drop down. So anything that's not appropriate for a certain level, you know, principal can say put NA, whatever. But on the last bullet, in order to kind of help planning, we'd like to, so Mr. Burgess recommended on his form, please give any additional information that you feel would affect your scheduling for next year. Now, what we'd like to do, we could either tweak that statement or any additional information you'd like to share with us, with your leadership team, which I think would be good. And in the drop down, we'd like to list some of the things that people could select. I'm requesting a transfer, or I'm thinking about, I'm retiring, and let people choose it. If they don't mark it, we can't force them to, but at least it gives some definition and includes some of the information to help principals plan. And they also would have the space to write to. So we're not taking that away, we just include in the drop down.
So like the center part of the elementary one, we moved that.
Yeah, you could do that one, or you could do the one that's on the middle school one, Westies, which is at Remain. Or yes, you could do that one. Whichever one and for us, we just would like a few more certainties, or if people had a chance to add a little additional information, that would help principals and planners.
Well, I think that when it comes to the open-ended, you're gonna get that information for your empathetic principals, because they're gonna really wanna share with them what, so they can prepare for it. So if it didn't have the drop down, then I think it's probably, that's what we could agree to.
I mean, out of Joe's form, you can read between the lines and figure out if that person's gonna come back or not. It's just not explicitly stated.
But his also is secondary. It's not, there's nothing for an extended day in elementary. I just, in the
So
both of
write
our.
an A. Yes, no.
Right, that's what I said,
NA.
you could do that, but I'm saying, you're saying by looking at Joe's, you can explicitly know what's going on.
Yeah, so, okay, so in this form, if you're elementary and you take, please indicate your top 3 choices. Great
Yeah, but
choices.
elementary is K through, they teach it all, man. I'm just saying they don't have a choice. Yeah, this is, I'm just saying, this is very secondary.
First one was.
So they have the right to say, when they say, I like first grade, can I move to third? Because I don't like first anymore. And then,
So is a room choice like which actual room you're in?
Yeah. No, that's a real conversation.
That's a real issue out at his school. That's what I'm saying, this is very, so if we can tweak it some, I'm just saying I want it to be,
I mean, you catch your side eye all year. Everyone wanted NA on that.
Oh, sorry. He's saying there's an issue about a room preference.
I would want an NA on that.
Huh?
I would want an NA on that.
What?
Room preference. I'm going to teams next year.
But I
it's a
don't
request,
think-
it's not binding. Well,
Would that,
The
so
other thing
for
is,
Joe, would
remember,
that
this is the
be
request,
something that you
not
can
binding.
add, please
Not
give any additional information on the back? Let's say, I wanna stay in room 27.
No, I
no, that's already on the front side.
I know, but if we were gonna do a universal form, and you were going to make it to all grade levels, I mean, I could honestly say that, I mean, for middle school, we want the same thing, right?
Right, that's why
There's certain-
it's easier to have an elementary, middle, and high school, they're so different worlds, instead of pushing a square peg in a round hole. We have a very simple elementary thing that works. We gave you an example of it works. And then the
That's
high school
mis-
one-
yeah.
High school one worked, and we can make it uniform on top.
the elementary one's the one with the boxes.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, it's
The only
not.
other
What you trying to
thing,
say, Dina?
I think that if we leave it open-ended, then I think that there's the potential for people to, look at it only in the context of scheduling. And they think, well, I need the second period, planning period. Oh, yeah, but they forget to tell us that they're planning for retirement. You know what I mean? Or I've got no real issues with scheduling, but I'm not gonna be, they'll leave that out. But if we're explicit, then we are able to plan based on what they're telling us. That's the goal. And I mean, ultimately, that's what, we're here to do. We're here to administer a school district.
With their input, with teacher input.
So,
But we could tweak this one and add some of the things if this is the model. I mean, this is, to me though, I thought it'd be better for elementary, middle, or either elementary and secondary. It doesn't matter, middle, high school, it's the same concept. To me.
so here's just a thought. If on elementary
Uh-huh.
and middle school one,
Uh-huh,
that had the information about retire, leave of absence, all that other stuff.
Uh-huh.
Or it had the checkbox of the yes, no, I am retiring. And that was all just changed out for the last part on the high school one. Where it said, is there any additional information you feel would affect your schedule for next year?
so saying add that list potentially to the back.
No, like, this would go away
Uh-huh,
and that would go in its place. So that when we're looking at it, it's the same question of.
I'm an individual, I need the intent. I mean, that's the whole point in good faith, just like I don't want a teacher to be caught in a bad situation because I misinterpreted what is in there or what is not in there. I need to be able to plan for my next school year as well, so I kind of need the intent.
I get it, but what I'm saying is, that's why, what I think I heard, I thought he was trying to add that to the back.
Generalization.
No, some people want to take a leave of absence, some people even, I mean. What we're trying to, there's different. Now, if for some of the words, I'm from wordsmithing, and I hear what Rusty says sincerely. He's just trying to figure out for leadership purposes, like what's going on. There's some people that are in drop, they're gonna automatically retire. But if there's something else on there, you don't precisely like the wording.
You're supposed to read this as like.
Yeah, no, but he said that, yeah, so that's what we were trying to do, is to try to figure out how we could do that. That's why I said on the back of Joe's, if we wanted to keep some of these and tweak it in A's on the back with the drop down, then people could drop down and choose a box. Or check this one, and then add whatever other information they wanted to add, that's fine too. That's what I was asking.
So all that I ask is just because we have some have some concerns. That's just
Okay.
of the questions and being very specific about those things. That does not mean that we don't understand why you want to know the information. Two different things. You understand why you want it. It's just judging from this, it looks like Principal Burgess gets that information without actually listing it. So if that's the case, then listing it would not necessarily be as necessary. However, for us, just to make sure that we review it, not saying that we can't come to an agreement at some point in time, that we're taking a look at, but like I said, I think the path of least resistance is just take the last one on the high school one and put it in middle and elementary as the choice part, where you tell us about what you're doing. But
So so are you amenable to potentially, and I'd like to hear, because I know we have Leon, a high school person,
yeah, no, that's okay.
but elementary, for me, would it be amenable at the last bullet? So what you're saying, you still don't like the drop down for people just to select? If they want to, I mean, you can't make a teacher do a drop down, it's like you can't make them do I'm just saying, that would be an option. A drop down, you can choose one of those.
What was the reason why we always talked about why not to ask? In years
Because
before.
some people, and we're in a shortage, are offended because they feel like their positions are being,
No.
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 What?
That
What do
wasn't
you-
what we said.
Kim, don't be that way, just explain to me
I
what
know,
you're
it's
saying.
just, sometimes we forget conversations we have.
Okay,
It
just
just-
remind me.
It puts it to where a teacher doesn't will feel like, okay, if I wanted to have a baby next year, I don't want to have to tell you that I'm gonna have a baby. I don't wanna have to say that I'm gonna take a family medical leave of absence for a little while
Is
right
there
now,
nothing
because
to
what if I decide at the last moment, I don't wanna have a baby? And you've filled my position. It goes in.
Yeah, I am-
the other way.
I think-
It goes,
But I think some of it also goes from the perspective of
No, it says, are you thinking about, some people, like this year, some people took a leave of absence because of personal reasons dealing with COVID.
For the year,
For the year.
not.
Some people requested the leave of absence and they took it back before I mean, I see what you're saying, this is not,
but also this, here we go, here's another thing. Transfer, okay? Let's say I love where I work, so I decide I don't like, I'm gonna transfer, and then all of a sudden the principal gets transferred out, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. You know, like, is that position automatically like, okay, gone?
We can't,
no.
we can't.
So tell me, I misunderstood that example.
We can't do that until you pick up another school. Until you picked up. Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to our original conversation.
Okay.
The original conversation was that as an annual contract teacher, I think we said this last time when we were kind of talking about intent forms. They don't always want to share the information, or they feel obligated to share information that if their plans do change,
Okay,
they may have to then now tell their principal that, or I want to transfer, but I don't want to tell my principal because I don't want to change the way that our work relationship is in the school right now, or any of those dynamics.
okay,
That was
I,
part of the reason that we said.
so we don't have to
not
put on their transfer, because the issue is, the people are applying online, that's why we didn't send principals, used to be the principals who are part of registration for teacher transfer day, we took that away from them, so they did not, and we did not let them know until the day of who was requesting a transfer. So if that's what's, like, if that's the one that's, like, giving you all heartburn, because potentially, what I think you all are saying is if someone says, I wanna transfer, that means they don't like the school, and the principal will say, well, you don't like the school, you don't like, that's what I think you're potentially getting at, is someone were acknowledging, I wanna transfer.
To help our rush to kind of understand, can we do a parentheses? And then say an example would be?
That's what I said.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I said that in the back, like,
Like, can you go ahead and just say, some examples of that would be, not telling you what to say, give you
Exactly.
examples of what you could say.
it doesn't have to be a drop down, it could be for various
Right.
reasons, but I think what I hear them saying is, they don't want their principal to know that potentially they might wanna go to a different school,
Okay, I have
because
a
they'll
question.
take it personal.
I have a question,
Yeah,
and forgive my ignorance,
no,
do I have to fill this out?
No,
No.
not at zero.
Okay, so
No.
if I don't have to fill this out, can we put, can I say optional?
Yeah, non-binding.
No,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, it doesn't.
yeah, they don't have to fill it out, absolutely
If I
not.
don't fill it out, okay.
Matter of fact, I mean, but they, depending on the building, they learn to fill it out, because when we come into moments, that information is power, like, if the building's working the way it should, you look at that, for example, if a situation comes up, and let's say I need an extended day, I'm looking at that, because I go back and I pull those forms to say.
Because everybody
who's gonna
doesn't
get an extra
want
class?
Right.
So like information like extended day would be important if I want to switch grade levels to third grade.
Yes.
Or if I want to be,
Department
yes,
chair.
if I want to be the school
Because,
secretary.
for example, if you have somebody who leaves in the middle of the summer, let's say like their spouse got sent somewhere else, so let's say they got sent somewhere else. You may have somebody say, you know what, we can switch this person into that grade, and we have an easier time hiring this other position.
Yeah, and I didn't even think of that.
Okay, because that's a real scenario that happens during the summertime. And you made the switch because I had the information. I said, oh,
You know? So
yeah.
that would be grade preference, but not requesting transfer, because I mean, let's be honest, if somebody knows you're transferring.
And that's what I'm saying, I think that's the one that's giving us the heartburn. If someone thinks they're transferring, it's hurtful. They think they don't like the school, the principal doesn't like them. That's the heartburn. That's the heartburn. It's the principal knows they want to transfer, and then I don't want you at my building since you don't want to be here, we don't want you here type of thing. That's what you're saying that people sometimes feel.
That's really uncomfortable.
Okay.
I'm sure there's some legal preface on some of these, but I don't understand. It would be uncomfortable.
So here's,
Let me say something. We're trying to solve some of your concerns. However, we don't really bargain this type of form, right? We're just trying to solve apparently the other forms in the past caused heartache.
Yeah.
So we're trying to lower the heartache on some people. Not all, that's right. Some are gonna always have heartache, but they're afraid of the shadow. But we don't bargain every box. But we just, I don't know what we're
Right.
doing.
So we're looking at this also, just we don't want to cause trouble. We also want to have issues come up that come up sometimes from principals that who think that Dina gives them a look. Okay, we're trying to make it to where it would be friendly to ask those questions without pushing.
Asking.
Right, you can read a little bit between the lines of what would you like, and again, it does take away from future issues we all have to deal with throughout the year. So if we could just kind of, again.
But I think the one I hear is the heartburn the most is transfer.
No, it's just means you have to check a box. Like, again, like, why can't we just kind of say, hey, if I feel very comfortable with my principal, and a lot of principals have built those relationships, especially this year, have built really great relationships with their staff. They're going to be honest and say, hey, I really want to kind of move up closer towards where I live. They're gonna let them know ahead of time. And that just kind of gives that information what Joe has on the back instead of checking a box.
so.
And then
I would
I also
like to-
need to say that if there is just for the language that Leonard wants to highlight, somewhere on here has to say it's not binding.
Well, that's what
So I think it's at the top of every sheet, it's sort of a title, voluntary non-binding intent form, right? That says on the very last one, that's on the fifth grade, or the high school one, that would say optional in front of it, that says, please give any additional information with examples of retirement, so and so and so, like of the things that people are looking for. And then that way it's non-binding, and it even says that question itself is optional. And then it's uniform on all three forms of what that part looks like.
okay, so I want to make sure I'm understanding. All you want us to do now is add the title, voluntary non-binding intent form optional. keep it at each grade level, the way it looks now, but make that the title. And then on the back, or am I using one form for all levels?
It would be all three forms.
Okay, I wanna make sure, but then on the back of Joe's, when you said
But I'm
add
just saying, if, I was just trying for continuity.
Okay.
Of all, what they all look like.
okay,
Because if you took this, that would allow for some open space. If
Okay.
people, if they want to go ahead and write a diary and give you more information.
Okay.
they can.
but in their examples to include, which could be some of the things,
And you could list some of the things. that
Okay.
are
are you all good with that?
And then that
When
way,
we
you
cover-
get the information. you're looking for.
Okay.
I don't know, I'm trying to find a compromise.
So what do you think about, what about, are you guys still looking for information as to whether people are coming back? Simplifying it, like, I plan on returning, I don't plan on returning to Roberts, I'm not sure yet. Or I don't wanna tell you. Would that be too basic?
We can do, and I like that, Patty, but you are so self-assured. And the way you said it was perfect, but I think.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking is if you change your title like you all have asked, okay? And then on the section, add a free response section is what I think you're asking us to add on each form. And on the free response, we're saying, please give me additional information that you feel would affect your teaching position for next year. Examples to include some of the things written on the middle school form. Could include, and I don't even have to put transfer, I could put retiring,
Run the lottery.
yeah,
Big six.
moving,
I mean, you could use this, resign, retire, and transfer.
resigning, retiring,
Leave of absence.
transfer, leave of absence. Okay, so what we'll do is, we'll make the adjustments, and then I will shoot them out to you all tomorrow. And once you all give the approval, then I'd like to be able to send them out Monday. So that principals could go ahead and potentially, yes, my dear.
With the high school when the home grade level place, that doesn't really apply to all high schools. So for example, at our school, our home is based on a class, it's not based on a grade. So if we choose the course that has 96, then the home is 498.
Same time.
So what we could do is, there's only one form, like for each. I'm wondering if we could say areas, Vicky, if we could put on there areas that don't apply, please NA it, because you're right, out of the high schools, every high school does something a little bit different, just like every elementary, so we can add that as a part of the directions, maybe, that if there's an area that doesn't apply to you, you can choose NA. Then that way it wouldn't be.
And you can put Scott's cell phone on.
There you go.
Yeah.
To ask us every single one, we can do it with Gina's stuff.
No, they already have my number. No, they already have my number.
Is there a way that, I'm just reading the top of it, and they're all very kind of different on how you're asking the give optional information. Joe's, just is like, I'm curious, summer plans, if I have to call you kind of thing, where looks like rest of yours says teacher reappointments are still several weeks away. I don't know, is there something that we can kind of like, just like, we're planning for the future?
So the
Happy
one
next year, we're hopeful for the next year.
So every
Plan for
form
the
is what the
future,
form
staffing.
is.
This is a non-COVID form. That's why it's gonna say something different like that.
I got that.
Yeah.
It was before-
It was before everything changed.
Before everything changed, I got it.
So each form, the way it is,
It's just like a like a little title at the top, that all the forms at the top says the same thing. This is a non-binding
yes,
voluntary.
I'm
But it's
clear.
important.
Right, very important for
This is a
staffing.
PS form, don't worry.
Right, no, this is, we're planning for the future. Leon County Schools would like to ask you for future,
Look at the
Yeah.
elementary, I am looking to receive our staffing plan at next school year very soon. In order for me to begin training, I will need to collect some information from each of you. Please answer the following questions
Yes,
Regard
yes, I
Keep going.
Demetri was very kind, and that's what I like. I like how they, but I also like the tones of like, this I'm not asking, you know, like, okay.
Well, I mean, we can't,
And then,
right, it's not like, where am I taking orders from Burger King? Come on, I'm trying to make it general so everybody gets the information they need. I hear what you're saying about the title. I like the directions about,
Yes,
if there's something, and we could use Ms. Clemens' directions on each one,
yes.
okay?
If
I don't know if the principals want me to come there, come see me, but they're gonna come, teachers are gonna come see their principal anyway. They're gonna come see, but on the last question, I think is what you all really want me to make sure every level gets, is please give us any additional information, which could include, and Scott told me to include, resign, retire, transfer, request a leave, which could include on the free response. Okay. Is that what you all are? Did I get it right? Okay. Thanks. Is that what you all would like for us to do? Stop. So I'm gonna tweak it. I'm gonna change the title, put the same title for each level. I'm gonna use the directions from Mrs. Clemens. Okay, she's gonna get 2 gold stars when we come back from principal. She's gonna get them, I'm gonna highlight her. And then I'm gonna keep the information the same as much as I can on each level. But the last question is gonna be a free response on each form. That's gonna say something like what Joe says. And then I'm gonna add the little parentheses that says, some examples may include request a leave, resign, retire, or potentially transfer.
Did you want options?
So I wanna make sure you're saying to keep the form as is.
No, I mean, you want me to take off the middle sections because it's gonna be on the back.
Yes, it's gonna be on that.
So send it tomorrow, we'll take a look at it. We'll send it back.
So Rusty, do you hear that? All they're saying, and for you and Ms. Clemens, I'll take this part and put the free response, which will say, use these as an example. Okay, all right, so I'll do that.
And I'm sure that Joe really wants that last line in there that you cannot guarantee that these requests.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Hey, give me 2 seconds.
Something done.
There you go. That's done. Wanted to be able to check something off the box today. I wasn't sure if we were gonna get to.
Brought one too, you understand? So what I'm gonna do, guys, is I'm gonna make those recommended changes and then we're gonna move forward in good faith, okay? Okay, and I'll get that to you all tomorrow.
Oh, I'm gonna put it
Because
on.
we're not really bargaining. All right, so this is, the last bit of our meeting is gonna consist of, for this evening, Article 4 and Article 5, and this is what we discussed before, saying that these are statute. We don't bargain these things, and they're gonna be the same, so we can go ahead and TA this tonight.
Yeah.
And then Scott, for the good of the order, I just wanna make sure we go on, you are gonna send us, because we wanna prepare ahead of time, what article.
Well, I'd like to talk about that.
Okay, I'm gonna dismiss everybody, and if we could, okay, because I promise,
I understand. So-
both sides, I said 2 hours time limit.
You got a minute for.
Okay, well, if you wanna start talking fast, I'll listen now.
Okay, so I guess last time the question was, what are our priorities? And I think the way that we're hearing it is that there are certain things that you already have contract language wise that are priorities that you guys have that you'd like to present. So, I mean, everything is for us. So if you have it, we can narrow it down and we can pick some articles to start with that we would be more than willing to do that, because I have a feeling that until the budget ends with the session and all the, recovery money stuff gets finalized as to how that can be used,
Yeah, we weren't prepared to do any, but if you'd like us to choose first, we can, and then I can reach out to you all once you all get, and we can share that and we can go from there. Okay, I thought we were, okay, that's fine. So I have a complete, and you all should have two over there. Okay, so then I'll get with Leonard and our team and we'll then look at the article we want to begin with. We'll notify you all, our small groups will work. We'll share proposed changes and then you all would have an opportunity to reflect and whatnot. Okay. Scott, for the busy order, you reached out to me last thing, seriously. There's a testing day that we chose to bargain during the day. What's that date?
I want to say that that's the
May 5th, okay.
May 5th is a FSA reading.
That's fine, we're gonna change it. We're gonna change it to
And
later.
then the 19th is FSA, so don't change, like, that's, be careful, don't change the 19th, because that's an FSA now.
Okay, no problem. I
So
mean,
as long as the other one goes to an afternoon, we're good.
yeah, we're gonna be flexible. I just want to get those dates.
Thank
You reached out and said that the teachers were concerned at
I
midnight.
appreciate it.
Okay,
There was one last thing with Shari, she wanted to double check in terms of travel time and people get.
I will respond to the email. Okay, she did, she sent an
It's 7
email.
o'clock, motion to adjourn.
Thank you. We're done.
You're gonna have to show me that.